Rachel wanted me to make some frames for the kids' school photos, and when I make frames, I like to make them relatively simple, flat curves that I can cut on a table saw. Didn't paint this one. But the frames my dad used to make all have a nice profile on them, like this, or this, or this, that he cut on the shaper. But I have cut some big profiles on the table saw, but very time consuming. Or I could approximate some of these shapes by taking many passes with simple router bits, but that's also very time consuming. But I've got 3 big profile router bits, and this one I figure would actually be the best for making a picture frame out of. And I cut a test piece out of some scrap, and the way that one works is I put the bit on there like this at an angle. And what I got here is what I think is some scraps of butternut hardwood, which is kind of useless as a hardwood because it's too light and soft, but it looks really nice, and being light and soft is kind of an advantage for a picture frame. Now if I just wanted to route that straight out, that would hit the guide bearing, and even if I took that off, the post would still hit the wood. So I have to make a relief cut here, but I have to do that anyways because in this profile, I didn't actually use the rest of the profile here. I cut this part off with a table saw. Those kind of look like picture frame profiles already now. And I think I might be able to get away with cutting that in one pass. But I've got these fingerboards, not so much for safety, just to make sure I'm always pressed up against the fence. And I try to cut at a constant speed because if I stop or slow down, that kind of shows in the cut. And now a rabbit from the back for the picture and the glass to fit into. I'm pre-varnishing those profiles because that way I don't have to worry about those fiddly little corners with the varnish. Gluing together miters is tricky, mostly because the clamping is rather difficult. So I'm going to try to avoid the clamping by using hot glue. Yes, hot glue, but there is a technique to that. You have to get the pieces hot enough so that the glue flows nicely so you get a nice and tight and strong joint. And after I smear the glue on, I heat it a bit more till it bubbles so I know it's hot enough. And then pushing the pieces together, and if I haven't heated the pieces overly long, then it'll cool down fast enough that I don't have to hold it for very long. I had a little bit of the hot glue that actually squeezed out towards the front, so I just gotta carve that away. And a tiny bit here too. I don't know how much I can count on that hot glue to hold things together permanently. And on the back you can see there's a little bit of burning in places on the miters because I learned this stuff blackens really easily, so I've always been kind of applying the heat from the back so that I burn the back edge, not the visible front. So I'm going to put some splines in the corners to make this a more resilient joint. And rather than make a dedicated sled for this sort of thing, I'm just using my table saw sled. And this gives me the lateral position, and then this thing with a notch in it makes sure I have it in at the right angle like this way, not like this. And do I need the splines? Well, I glued some scraps together. Let's see how easily I can break that. Oh, there. Might be okay without them. And now trimming those splines flush on the bandsaw. And then finishing that off on the belt sander. And that of course messed up the varnish on the outside edges, so I'm just adding a little bit with a piece of paper towel so I don't have to clean the brush. And after that dried, one final coat on the whole frame. And also a clear coat on that little painting to give it more of an even finish. And now the holes for hanging it. And I like to use a smaller drill to kind of cut a bit of a ledge in that angled hole just to get more hold on the screw in the wall. My table saw fence works great for guiding the glass cutter. And I shortened those a little bit to keep them from scratching up the wall. And that natural color works well for this one. For this one, I think I should have gone with something a bit darker. And what's neat about this painting is actually of this one under construction. This one I painted in 1990. This one's from 1986, and there's my dad putting the cedar shakes on the walls. But I haven't really taken any time to do any paintings in the last 20 years or so. And the whole thing started out because Rachel wanted some picture frames for the kids' school photos. And I made 3 of those off camera, figuring it wasn't really interesting enough to make a video of, but then I changed my mind. And so I wanted a frame for this little picture, which I totally forgotten about, but I came across recently. So that was basically to get another picture frame made so I could make a video about making them. And I used my tilting router lift for this, which I have to admit, I don't use the tilting functionality very often, but when I do, it's super handy. And it really is just a tilting mount for the router lift. And it's got a nice set of wooden gears for moving it up and down. And the reason I go out of my way to tell you this is because I've got plans for it for sale on my website, woodgears.ca. It is more difficult to do dust collection on this one though, because the geometry is so variable, which is why this whole cabinet is actually the dust collector.